All right, y'all. Welcome to the ride. Another episode on this Thursday evening, April 4th, 1968, 11:55 p.m. of Gavin Reshaw Presents on channel G Boot 2786. I am your host, Gavin Reshaw. Wherever you are, whoever you are, thank you for joining me. It is a little late with me doing this, so I know a lot of people probably won't. It needed to be done. A lot's been going on with the death of our brother Nipsey Hussle. The things that we're learning about his untimely passing, his murder, or his assassination, rather, uh, at the allegedly, and I say allegedly because I wasn't there, and as a general rule, I do believe in presumption of innocence in our country. By this gentleman by the name of Eric Holder, who was an alleged rapper. Obviously, knew Nipsey, was in the community, and allegedly he was a snitch. And this is what led to the deadly shooting that killed Nipsey, as well as the fact that everything makes sense up until the woman that got in a car with Nipsey, and apparently she got away with it. The cops did not press charges against her. In fact, today we learned that when Holder went for bail, Christopher Darden, the assistant district attorney in the O.J. Simpson case, is representing him now, which it's not a surprise. I think everybody, it's a high profile case. So you hadn't heard Christopher Darden's name in a while, unless it's talking about O.J. Simpson, because apparently he is a part of that cabal about the O.J. did it. With the OJ did it industry, he was on the docu series. Obviously, uh, he was on the documentary that came out about the lost video of OJ's confession, which was BS in and of itself, as well as countless interviews he's done about how OJ got off. OJ got off. It's always been that narrative that has been pushed the last 25 years, and it's not a shock necessarily that he represents, you know, Nipsey's alleged killer, because as a general rule, when you're a defense attorney, he's not a prosecutor anymore. You represent the worst of the, you represent guys who to the public see as the worst of the worst. And I know, as a defense attorney, I've had to represent guys. I have represented guys, and I do continue guys who the public do not like, guys who are deemed guilty before they're proven guilty. You know, you'll see that. And, there are guys who are not the most friendly people in the world, obviously, that you represent, but it's your job nonetheless as an attorney. You're sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States and uphold the law. These people are entitled to an adequate defense. That's just the bottom line. Um, Now, having said all of that, I really want to get into today. I wasn't going to talk so much about uh, the facts and circumstances of Nipsey's killing, but what I am going to talk about is something that greatly disturbed me. That is on your in the info box, the information box that we have when we're talking about Nipsey, and this goes out to uh, NBC News and George Johnson, who I'm going to say he's a gay black man, and I use the term man very loosely because what you put in here is unmanly and it's unchristian. It's frankly, it's disgusting, sir. And I may come off as an angry black man to some of you. Some of the things you're going to say, I will say probably will offend you. You might call me toxic. You might say I'm a hater. You might call me homophobic, whatever. I really don't give a damn. And you have my permission to put whatever you want. At the end of the day, I know who I am and what I'm about, and I can live with that. What I saw in the article, and I posted it in the information box for this video, for this live stream. I'll put it in the chat box if anybody wants to read it. But what you put here, and I'm addressing George Johnson, NBC News, you're a racist piece of shit. And George Johnson, you big sissy, something is wrong with you. You're basically a junior Lee Daniels. What you wrote here on Nipsey Hussle and what I see is one of the most vicious, racist, unprofessional hit pieces. And I shouldn't even say a hit piece isn't professional anyway. It can be done professionally, but it is unprofessional as a journalist, sir, that you would put something like this on NBC News. NBC News, you allow it, where you're talking and downing a black man in general, but a man who can't even defend himself, a man that just died, that you would take Nipsey Hussle's murder, homophobia, and the toxic black masculinity that fuse it. I'm tired of Black Death, you state in the subtitle, but I'm equally tired of those attempting to hold on to ideals that have been proven to cause so much pain and fear. How do you go from, first and foremost, let's break this down. How do you go and compare right there someone's murder with homophobia and black masculinity, toxic black masculinity? And you're a black man, although that's questionable. You can put something like this out there after the man has died. Homophobia. What does that have to do with any of the shit that just transpired this past Sunday? Not a goddamn thing. This is what you wrote. Hold on. I want everybody to read the article. I know you're not going to read it now and listen to me at the same time. You can, but I'm just quoting what he has here. Okay. This is what he says. This is just part. The issue here is that black gay men still aren't seen as equals. Too often their blackness is reduced because of their sexuality. Nipsey Hussle, who again worked hard to reinvest in South Central Los Angeles, was himself very concerned with the imagery of black men and appeared worried that queer people were attempting to execute a mysterious and negative agenda. Such language is often used to criticize LGBTQ people for being too openly proud of their sexual orientation, or even worse, allegedly influencing others to live openly gay as well. Nipsey was fine with gay people existing, just not joyously or in public. Okay, let me stop you right there. Let's go back. Okay, Nipsey Hussle, who again worked hard to reinvest in South Central Los Angeles. You know, when someone dies, it's good to talk about the positive things that they do. Instead, you focused on something that he talked about while he was alive, concerned about the image of the black man. And what, to my second point, what is wrong with talking about being concerned of the image of the black man in America? Now, if you're a gay, that's your business. What you do when you talk about sexual orientation here, openly proud of their sexual orientation, you can be proud of your sexual orientation. You can be proud of being in a relationship with whoever or whatever you want. But does that have to be public? Do I have to tell what I do in my bedroom to everyone, every person outside of these four walls? No, I don't. And maybe Nipsey, like a lot of black men, there is an agenda certainly in Hollywood that we see. We've talked about it all the time about the images that we see. If you think there's something, if you don't think there is not an agenda in Hollywood that tries to show African American men, black men in a particular way, and let's not even look at the sexual orientation. Let's look at the images. Back in the day, the only roles a black man could play was that of a pimp or a thief. When you watch shows like NYPD Blue, when you watch, Law and Order, whether you watched, some shows on UPN, blacks were always portrayed in coonish, buffoonish roles for a long, long time. The show Amos and Andy, which was ahead of its time, a great comedic show. It was created by two white men who would get in black, who basically would talk like black men on a radio. And then later on, when it became a live television show, they had to get black actors, obviously, to play in those roles. Now, my father, remembers that show as a kid. He loved the show. And yeah, there was a movement by the NAACP to get that show off the air, and a lot of black actors and actresses who were working on the show got robbed. I mean, couldn't find work. So, yes, it's a mixed bag. You feel sorry for them, but a lot of people felt it was stereotypical. And and I just and hear me out for a second. When you look at the images of black people today, even Chris Rock said this when he made the movie Top Five, and how hard it was for him to get funding for that. That if you were a black male with bass in your voice, you weren't going to find work. And that's just the bottom line. If you are a black man in America that's straight heterosexual, that's about doing things with your community, you are a target. And George Johnson, you just prove that you target and do not like straight heterosexual men, mainly because you know you can't be one. You don't want to be one. And when you make comments about toxic masculinity, toxic black masculinity, what about toxic black femininity? Do females do anything wrong? Are females the perfect? Is femininity the perfect men behind their back and ruin their lives? I know women who are just as worse as these deadbeat dads that we always talk about, where they say black men don't want to be fathers in their community. Well, you know what? There are sisters who don't want black men to be men and raise their sons and daughters, and that's probably what happened. I don't know what your life is and what you went through, but you're sissified. I'm tired of seeing these sissified men, and a lot of women are tired of it. It's just everything I've seen in the last few years has been a war on masculinity in general. You had that Gillette commercial that wasn't shit. We talked about that before, but now you've decided to take a political agenda that, how dare you? Someone that turned his life around, someone that was giving back to the community. You could have talked about that and how it's a debt blow for everybody, but instead you used it to push an agenda. And NBC, fuck you too. You're the same group of people that when Bill Cosby got in trouble, you put hit piece after hit piece on him. You had the case against Cosby, the Cosby women, with no proof that any of these women met or knew Bill Cosby, that he committed any crime. You put it out there. And it's the same man that saved your network 30 plus years ago from being fucking bankrupt and buried by CBS. When CBS was kicking ass with Magnum PI. CBS dominated the ratings in the 1980s with that show. And Bill Cosby showed you we can bring a sitcom world back. They thought the sitcom world was dead until the Cosby Show came back on. A different world. The other shows you had on Cheers was suffering in the ratings. Family Ties was struggling in the ratings. The only thing you had was what? Different Strokes and Give Me a Break. But coincidentally, starring a black male and black female cast members. Different Strokes was Todd Bridges and Gary Coleman. Obviously, Give Me a Break, you had one black female star, Nell Carter. And Cosby comes along, where up until that time, white America never saw a black doctor or a black lawyer. And he changed that. No one ever saw historically black colleges and universities in a sitcom setting until Bill Cosby came along. He changed that. He saved your number one show for 5 straight fucking years, tying All in the Family All in the Family in the 1970s did it first. and then Bill Cosby rivals that, and you shit on him. That's why your network, NBC. This is why we need more. This is why we are new black media, and why we need a stabilized black media enterprise and outlet for us when we have issues like this, when hit pieces like this can be made, we can have a platform that can come back and hit harder. You know, I'm just one person. Nicole's view is just one person. You know, uh, Harvey Superboy and Tariq Nasheed, they have platforms. Obviously, Nicole's and Harvey's and Tariq's is bigger than mine. Tariq, I think, is bigger than everybody right now, but it's getting there. It's getting there, and I'm not doing this just so that you all can click and get ratings. I'm doing this because this is a perfect place for me to tell you how I feel and to vent and to call stuff out when we see it. Nipsey is dead. And for this guy to take something like this, you know, what's interesting when I'm looking at it, he says, meanwhile, two black gay men have fatally overdosed at Ed Buck's home over the past 2 years. Where's the widespread outrage from the black community? Where are the marches and protests? So now you're blaming black people for not being outraged over Ed Buck killing two black gay men. When there have been black media outlets, there has been outrage over it. There have been people calling about Ed. I've seen it all the time on Facebook. People calling about why Ed Buck is not being investigated like they're doing R. Kelly. Tariq Nasheed has gone in on it. Mr. Johnson, have you followed it? Maybe no. Maybe because you want to be with Ed Buck. Queer men and heterosexual men often talk at each other and about each other, but rarely with each other. You know, I, okay, I can't really deal with this nigga anymore. Toxic black masculinity kills. Masculinity didn't protect him, and now he's dead. Well, I'm tired of black death. So many members of the community, in my community, attempting to hold on to ideals that have been proven to cause so much pain, fear. You politicize the man's death, plain and simple with this. You guys just look at the article if you want. Niggas like that, they need, I'm not wishing harm on them, but they need to be dealt with. And by that means don't support them. Don't, whatever article he puts out, don't click on it. Anything NBC does, I really don't want anything to do with them. Now, they were a reliable news network. Now you're a joke. You're a shell of yourself, just like CNN. Fox News may be bad, but at least, hey, I know what I'm getting when I watch it. Yeah, it's racist. Yeah, it's old time rednecks that they appeal to. I don't really pay every Superboy. Get my news from We All Be, from Tariq Nasheed, from Professor Black Truth, the Black Authority. That's who I get my news from. And occasionally I might get my news from Apple News or something like that. I can't take you guys seriously anymore when y'all put stuff like this out. What did any of this have to do with Nipsey Hussle's death? Not a damn thing. And when you look at the term homophobia in and of itself, it means a fear of. The word phobia means the fear. Homo, obviously, the same. So when you say homophobia, you're just making it sound like black men, like Nipsey, straight black men like myself, are scared of gay people or gay men. I'm not scared of nobody. There is no mental disease known as homophobia, as Dr. Umar Johnson even alluded to when he was confronted by a LGBTQ lesbian, black female lesbian. And that's another thing. They identify themselves with all three of these adjectives: black, female, lesbian. You know, black, Jewish, female, lesbian, or something like that. Who the girl was, or biracial, black, female. I don't know. Too many acronyms to even get in. BBQ, BB2, whatever they call themselves. No, there is no mental disease though known as homophobia. You know, now of course homosexuality had always been considered a mental illness, but that's another story. Why it was changed, it was for political reasons, not scientific. But I don't want to go that far into that. I'm getting off topic, but I do want to point this out. I started this stream 21 minutes ago. Sorry, guys, I am getting a little tired. I am tired. I've been up all day, but I got to get this out. Um, 51 years ago today, April 4th, it's April 5th now, but marks the 51st, yeah, it was the 51 years ago today. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was struck down by assassin's bullet. And of course, I don't believe that James L. Ray was the assassin. It's been proven from people I've spoken with, like Judge Joe Brown, Dick Gregory, that he was not the gunman. Most people may or may not know that. People do know it or suspect. Conspiracy, they don't say anything too much. They don't care. But it was proven, excuse me, guys, it was proven in a court of law in 1999 in a civil trial that by 6 black, 6 white jurors that the United States government was liable for Martin Luther King's assassination. And they named multiple people. Now, not getting too deep tonight. I don't have time, and I certainly am not in the best of moods, I think, to talk for another 10, 15 minutes. But it's ironic, hell of ironic, that Dr. King dies April 4th, 1968, and now Brother Nipsey dies, March 31st, 2019, not too far from each other this week, and we're talking about economic development. And that's really what Nipsey and Dr. King have in common, and I put in the info box earlier. What did they have in common? And what it was that both of them, in the last years of their life, they talked about economic development. Dr. King's last march that he did was going to be a poor people's campaign in DC. And there's video footage. Let's see if I can pull it up. Hold on a second. There's video footage of Dr. King. Excuse me, guys. I'm sorry. Talking about getting the Negro getting his check, coming to get their check. I'll put it right here. And he said that civil rights was not enough for black folk. And actually, the video is playing. I was trying to play.
I know all of you are studying hard and you're just doing fine in school.
Okay, that's Dr. King. Listen.
In the last 2 months of his life, Dr. King faced the idea that civil rights alone could not solve the problem. He roamed the South, trying to gain support for Poor People's Campaign. Its goals: full employment, a guaranteed income.
Sound like Henry Louis Gates.
People just don't know, but it's really hard. Not only me, it's so many more in the same shape. I'm not the only one. It's just so many of us right around. It's just don't have shoes, clothes. There's naked and home. Part time you have to cook your children pinto beans morning, down and supper. They don't know where they'll get a good meal.
You all are really to be admired. And I want you to know that I'm going for you. I'm going to be coming back to see you. And we are going to be demanding when we go to Washington that something be done and done immediately about these conditions. Yes.
This was a different Martin Luther King. Just weeks before his murder, in tones suggestive of the Black Panthers, he began to talk about how the government had broken its promise to the newly freed slaves just after the Civil War.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest. It meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farm. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is a reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
Yeah. I just stopped it right there. But yeah, you heard it from Dr. King. We are coming to get our check. So for all of these Negro politicians that are out there, these Negro politicians who are talking about reparations will never happen, the burning, and not just the Negro politicians, Democratic politicians as well who are running, the Kamala Harris's, Negroes like Cory Booker, who's not going to even make it. Those two are not going to even make it. They're just going right down the toilet. Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, anybody that's against reparations, we're coming for the check. These coons that we have in office, and I'm not going to name, they know who they are. The people who are up there, in the Congressional Black Caucus, that don't do a damn thing but just sit back and collect their check and pension and just make a few appearances at some banquets and some step shows or whatever the hell they do. We're not tolerating it anymore. What you did in the past is in the past. But what's happening right now, you got to look out for us. If you're not with us, you're against us. If you're not about changing the economic landscape for Black people like you do for other groups. Let's be real about this now. When you talk about reparations, you have reparations for Japanese Americans who were thrown in internment camps. You had reparations for Jews in Nazi Germany with regards to these American companies, hear me out, that benefited from the Holocaust or participated. He gave monies to them. You have here in the United States African American males who were basically enslaved, who are descendants of slaves, and to this day, we suffer from police brutality. You have issues of police brutality. You have issues of racial discrimination in hiring, things that have never been dealt with. And you know it. You know it. And this is what Brother Nipsey, and to tie it back in with Brother Nipsey Hussle and Dr. King, the economic empowerment that they were trying to work for. See, Dr. King didn't get killed until he talked about coming to get our check. He didn't get killed until he talked about reparations and economic development in the African American community, and how he realized that civil rights maybe wasn't just the only thing that he should have been pushing. Integration maybe wasn't the only thing he should have been pushing. In fact, he feared that he integrated his people into the burning house. Now, it still should have been done because you should have the right. The law should be applied to everyone, and you should have the right to go eat where you want, to choose the schools that you want, just because, like everyone else. If whites have it, you should have it. But there still needed to be that base. And I think Dr. King found out later on that those such bases were needed, and he didn't get it until it was too late, and he was taken out. And just like our brother Nipsey, again, I'm not saying there's any conspiracy. I don't know, although I do think there may have been more people involved. I'll wait to hear what the evidence is. I do think some things I've heard have been very interesting. I won't say too much. Uh, but yeah, I am plan ahead and be strategic. Anyway, guys, rest in peace, brother Nipsey and Dr. King. I think that your deaths are tragic. It won't be in vain. But guys like George Johnson, getting back to him, they need to be excommunicated from the community because they're certainly not for us. And you saw after Nipsey died how they were defaming this man, even in other gay magazines and other news media outlets talking about him. You know, he gave back to the community. He was actually putting in several stores in his strip mall to give people jobs. He went on the day of his murder to actually give clothes to someone who got out of prison so that they can go on their interview. I believe a job interview, if I'm not mistaken, or he was just helping them with clothes. So he did some good. Anyway, guys, I'm about to fall asleep on this thing. Y'all saw me yawning all the time. Let me get out of here. Y'all enjoy the rest of good night. Enjoy the weekend, okay? Peace. Who's in the chat room? True Royal family, what's up? Shout out to you. Thank you for joining me, everybody that's come in. Thank you. Love y'all.